Welcome back to the TTRPG Insider. I am your host, Rob Southgate. TTRPG Insider is a podcast that features interviews with the various people that are involved in the creation of tabletop games. It's about them and their stories, not just about the games they create. I want this podcast to raise up these amazing people and to inspire you, the listeners. You can follow TTRPG Insider on Facebook and Twitter at TTRPG Insider. Make sure to follow the show on these platforms and join the conversations. I'll add more social media in the future, but those are the best places to interact with me for now. You can also email me directly if you have a guest or game suggestion, or simply want to ask a question or give a comment. My email is rob@ttrpginsider.com. This month's featured game is Doomsong by CaesarInk. They have a Kickstarter campaign starting October 17th and running through November 3rd, 2023. Please support the Kickstarter for Doomsong and be sure to share about it on your social media. It's a truly awesome project that deserves to get funded. Remember, this is not a lot of time, so you want to get in there and support right away. You can find the link to the Doomsong Kickstarter in our show notes, or you can also search for Doomsong on Kickstarter directly. Today's guest is Chris Caesar. He's an award-winning illustrator, graphic designer, and the co-creator/illustrator of Doomsong. Here's Chris. Chris, welcome to the show. I am so happy to have you on here. I just finished, if anybody could see the actual timestamp on this, they'd see I just finished talking to your brother, Jack. But this is Chris Caesar from CaesarInk Games, and he is a co-creator of Doomsong, which is a game that is kickstarting starting October 17th and 2023. So there's no confusion. And I love it. So I'm excited to have you on. And I've made it the featured game of the month. So anyone that listened to the intro to this knows Doomsong is the game of the month, and they know where to go find it. I'm going to say it again here. Go to the show notes. You can click right on it, and you can support this awesome Kickstarter. Today, I've got Chris Caesar with me. Chris, welcome to the show. Yes. So, Chris, Doomsong. Let's start there. We're going to circle back to Doomsong, but give a thumbnail of what Doomsong is.
Oh, a thumbnail of what Doomsong is. Doomsong is a horror RPG for anyone who has always thought that people are the real monsters. I mean, that we have real monsters, but we've drawn an enormous amount from the sort of the Dark Ages, where horror was, people didn't know, like the everyday people didn't know what was made up fictional horror and what was an actual real horror. So we've drawn on like the Black Plague, the witch trials, general atrocities committed by the Dark Age Catholic Church, like all of the worst
stuff that we now see in movies, and we think, oh, nobody would put him in a cage with spikes like that. That's a made up. No,
yeah,
they did that.
All the stuff that's sort of become a fun Halloween costume now.
What's reality for these people?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is so funny. I mean, it's not funny for them. We were at a Ren's fair, and they had a thing set up where you could go in, and it was almost like a haunted house, but it was real torture devices from medieval times. And there was one where they put people on a cart, and this was all real. They put people on a cart, and basically, if they don't answer the way they want them to, they pull the block out, and the thing goes down this ramp, and it hits them right in the balls. But you're going at such a fast speed. I'm like, that I would be dead. Like, this is torture beyond torture. And it had like little spikes on the end and all that. And it was like, yeah, this is a real device. I'm like, what were people living with? Like,
but also,
I'm upset now if my coffee's not right. I mean, can you imagine if you're living your life thinking you're going to get a spike in the balls at any point?
You look at that sort of thing and you just think, like, the creativity that went into it.
Well, you know what it was? Those people that were creating that, they were that era's TTRPG writer.
Mm. Yeah.
You are the direct result.
Yeah.
I bet if we go back in your family history and we follow the timeline, we'll find there was, oh yeah, great grandfather was the ball smasher. That was his,
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
stretching my
So,
thoughts.
okay, I think we've said balls enough on here today. Let's move on to other things. So, your background, how did you get into TTRPG and writing? And tell me a little about that.
Well, I Jack and I have always sort of offhandedly um, designed games. Like I think the first game we owned was Hero Quest,
Oh, fun. Good one.
and obviously the rule book went straight in the bin. That was nonsense. Nobody needed that.
Right.
So we just invented our own rules, and then that rule system pretty much lasted us up until our teenage years, and sort of was developed and play tested right up until then. And looking back, it wasn't a particularly solid system, but then we both got into the Lord of the Rings miniatures game,
Yeah.
but again, more just for the models. Like we
Of
used them
course.
in RPGs and role-playing games, and dungeon crawling and RPGs with miniatures very much became what I did. Like I would play war games, but mostly because those people were more into war games than like the RPG side of it than me. And I've never really been that competitive with games, more trying to build this narrative rather than being heavily invested whether or not I personally won. Then I went to university to study animation.
Oh,
And it was at university that CaesarInk, not as an official limited company, existed, but it was the first time that I started using the handle, I guess.
sure.
And that was mostly so I would make posters for local pubs. So they'd be having a heavy metal night, and I'd draw, some heavy metal robot and make 30 quid drawing a poster.
Hey, you were a paid
and
artist.
Then spend it at heavy metal night almost immediately, basically giving the money straight back. And then after university, I continued to freelance for maybe a few years. And one of the companies I was freelancing for was Riverhorse, because Jack had kind of gone, oh, my brother's a graphic designer. They're in a pinch one day, and I got this phone call that was like, oh, we need you to lay out. That was it. We need you to lay out the Hunger Games. I think that was the first one. I started that one before working at Riverhorse, and then finished it whilst working for Riverhorse.
Ah, okay.
And that was an interesting one, because that was like pulling at a piece of wool on a woolly jumper, and sort of turned into a sort of a redesign of the entire game. And I think at some point, Riverhorse kind of realized that it would be cheaper to make me an employee than it would be to keep paying me as a freelancer. Because they sort of just had this mounting pile of graphic design stuff that needed doing, which was a really interesting sort of leap for me, because I'd been freelance for, probably almost a decade, including, from working in university to working after university. And then that was sort of, getting close to my 30s and realizing like, oh, this is actually my first like office job.
Yeah.
I
took longer. It took me until 55 to get that one. I was doing consulting work and all this, and then all of a sudden, this publisher was like, once again, it's probably cheaper to just make you an executive and let you dictate things, because per author, per project, oh man, I was going to cost them a lot of money. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so that was when Jack and I sort of first started working together, since sort of we'd both gone off to university. And I know Jack had done some board games design with a bunch of friends at university, and I'd done a bunch of board games design with some friends sort of in Cardiff. Yeah, working together at Riverhorse was kind of the first time that we got back together and started doing stuff. And almost immediately, so we've almost immediately we started sort of designing stuff as a hobby again. So we've been playing this war game for the past like 4 years that is basically designed from the ground up for us, because I don't care about playing someone else's war game. Sure. Like every single person is completely individual in what they want and what they enjoy from a war game. And we don't have a large war gaming group to hand. So we just thought, yeah, let's design something absolutely just for us. Like if you like this sort of game, then we'll make it this sort of game.
Right.
Yeah, so we started doing stuff for fun as well as for River Horse. And River Horse was a great opportunity to really work out what I wanted games to be. Mm-hmm. Probably not, their primary goal. But
no. You mean they weren't concerned about your enjoyment entirely? There was something
exactly
selfish there for them to.
So we started on the My Little Pony role-playing game. Sort of to start when we got into role-playing games. We started with the My Little Pony role-playing game, which had an established core book, and they were sort of making an adventure every sort of quarter and a bit, which they were sort of laid out in what I consider to be the industry standard way of laying out adventures, which is that a author gives a written adventure to a layout person, and then they sort of lay it out in the way that the author gave it to them, rather than what sort of has become my outlook on how these things should be designed. It should be, right, just to get a bit high theory on games design here, you're not designing a book and you're not designing an adventure. What you're designing is an experience for a group of absolute strangers to have around a table. And that's, when you start thinking at it like that, none of you is the experience designer, right? That isn't anyone's job title. So what you should be doing is looking at, okay, well, this bit of the adventure is, the words are written this way. The writer has handed this in. The illustrator thinks that this is going to be more evocative and more cool. And the layout person is saying, well, the easiest way to translate this from the page to a game is by laying it out this way. So you've got these 3 different viewpoints that are all pulling in different directions. And as soon as you decide that the aim is not to make it the most beautiful thing or to make it the most like rules watertight thing, or the aim is to make the experience for a total stranger as enjoyable as possible and to reflect the experience you want them to have, right? Because we're the GM's GM.
Right.
We have to GM the GM to GM his game.
Right.
And we have to do it without ever meeting him or talking to him, or like, how do you do that? And the answer is like,
you also have to make it in a way that they're engaged enough that they don't just fully break it, because you do want your game somewhat, you want it to be the sandbox. So I get that. You want to give the GM the experience that they want to build in your sandbox, and they can share that with the people that are playing within their sandbox. It's very complicated.
Yeah, but then so you sort of also need to put up a big sign that says, this is what the sandbox is for. Mm-hmm. We have a shared idea of what a Roleplay Macabre should look like. And if what you want to run is high power level 20 D&D, then we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to design a game that would be great for high level 20 D&D players, like, we would just start from a different starting place and work towards different goals.
Well, then you're almost writing okay, now we're going to get even more meta. Somebody has written the rules that you're in their sandbox, creating the sandbox for the GM, then they're creating it for the player. So there's a level above you, creating the experience to keep you engaged, to be able to be a writer. I think I just had a stroke. That was very complicated. Yeah.
So at the top level, it kind of becomes an Ouroboros.
Right. Where, eating its own tail the whole time.
Yeah.
Which makes me think about X-Files, because Scully had an Ouroboros on her, a tattoo on her in an episode. So you're the graphic designer on this. I have to say, anyone that's listened to the Go Fund This, we talk about how you can get the 120 page PDF and, check things out. The artwork in this, I've been looking at this for days now. Your artwork is so fantastic. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's very cool. Isn't it?
I think the design on this is absolutely stunning, and it tells me what I'm getting into, and it's creating images in my head already, which that's the sweet spot. That's where you want to be. So well done, man. This is really cool.
Yeah, I think the graphic design is like probably the place where, and it's probably how I've come out of like 5-6 years in the industry with this holistic Ouroboros idea of design, is because as the graphic designer, you're kind of everyone's bitch, right?
Right.
But you have to get these elements to work together. So you have a rules guy who is saying, this is what the rules are. This is how much information I want to fit on a 2-page spread or whatever. And you're like, that's never going to fit. And then you've got the artist, right? Which when we were working on IPs, that again, just crazy that I had a very specific like squashy comic book style that I worked in before I started working at Riverhorse. And then suddenly it's like, draw like Brian Froud. Like no one can draw like Brian Froud.
Right.
Yeah, draw just so many different genres that suddenly I had to start working in. So you develop this flexibility where, like, for example, the artist or the IP that you're working with dictates all of the elements on the page. Like the graphic designer isn't flexing a sort of the creative lead, even when they're working with an IP, because if you're working, say, with Terminator, where you're going to be using a lot of black and reds, you're going to be using a lot of like flat digitally generated metal textures. You're going to, there is a style guide for Terminator. A graphic designer / artist has already worked all that out. And I think that put us in a really interesting place where the way that Jack and I have learned to work is designing games for IPs, which means we know what experience Terminator is, to just keep using Terminator as an example, right? Terminator is a high octane pursuit with a sort of unstoppable monster that is trying to destroy you, and the stakes are like enormous, right? So when trying to translate that into a game, that's the thing that we're working towards. That's the experience of the players around the table. And it's been incredible to work on an RPG where we have also decided what the end goal is as well as the start goal. Right. And it means that both can kind of like Doomsong is a world that is designed for these games. It's not an IP that has been adapted to play in your favorite cartoon or whatever. Like it's fully kind of designed so that you constantly feel this massive overshadowing doom.
Right.
You play as these kind of mistreated working class peasants that no one has any real respect for, and your job
you're
10
a
years
serf,
ago
and
fighting
the
the
serf
undead.
is getting no respect. Yes.
Yeah, because those are the kinds of experiences that we just think are fun to role play.
To be a serf, you want to be a serf. You want to see what that feels like. That at every point, my life expectancy is about 19 years, and everything wants to kill me. Yay!
Yeah, but everyone's favorite character in Blackadder is Baldric.
Right, of course. Because even though I'm making a joke about it, it is what we all go to. That's what happens. So, okay, you did kind of comic book arty, whatever. Who are 3 artists that have inspired you the most?
Jamie Hewlett, the Tank Girl guy.
Yep.
I am also terrible with names and celebrities.
I see that in your artwork here too.
Mike Mignola. Yeah, if you scroll back past the Doomsong stuff, it gets a bit punky. Mike Mignola.
Of course. Oh my
God. That said, I've always really sort of struggled to be as bold as the way that Mike Mignola draws, just in black on black on black.
Right, and it's crazy, right?
It shows a confidence in the shapes that you've drawn that I don't have.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, third artist. Um,
I mean, you really hit two incredible ones. Let's see if you could go for the trifecta here.
so can I choose
You can choose anything.
choose anything? So I was going to say, again, like I don't really do. I have a huge detachment between art and artist.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I love that kind of like, and this is just a vague vibe now. I love that kind of cyberpunk neon kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know if that can be attributed to a specific artist or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there might be one that you love, but that kind of urban cyberpunk. I mean, as soon as you say it, I know exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah,
I like that too. I especially like it kind of like the Blade Runner aesthetic. And
yeah,
when it has that like dark and dingy and dirty, and then there's this glowing neon
just
sign
everything's
for,
wet.
yeah, and wet. I love that too. It's a very interesting uh, texture,
Yeah,
that draws me in as well. So I don't know if you can really attribute it to a single person, but yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm sure we could probably come up with an artist and be like, yeah, this is the artist. But yeah, I'll take those answers. Those were solid, man. I liked them. So, okay, we're coming up on the end of this episode. Chris, this has been so much fun to talk to you. I have really enjoyed it. Once again, we've got a game on Kickstarter. It is Doomsong. It has incredible artwork. It starts the Kickstarter October 17th. Get in there. If you go in now, there'll be a link in the show notes. If you go in now, you can sign up to be alerted when it goes live and follow it, and you'll get updates. And I'm sure there's going to be cool stuff. And I'm sure, because I'm looking at your Twitter here, I already see artwork in that you're sharing on there that's so cool. Follow Doomsong, follow CaesarInk, follow Chris. And Chris, where do you want them to follow you? What's the best way to engage with you?
So we've been very active on Instagram. I definitely won't recommend Twitter, because if you're listening back to this in 6 months' time, you'll be like, what the hell is Twitter?
Yeah, who recommended that?
You just find a smoldering crater where Twitter used to be.
And you get charged to look.
Yeah, so if you're into sort of social media and the artwork and stuff, we're very active on Instagram. We do have a newsletter that goes out, and you can sign up at the same place that you can find the demo, which is www.caesar.inc/doomsong. Yeah, other than that, there's the Kickstarter page.
Yeah, and I'll put all that in the show notes too. Plus, you have a Discord, which people can engage with you guys there as well. Once again, I'll just put it all in the show notes, because I
we
think
do live streams on Mondays as well.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
You do live streams on Mondays. I'll have to put a link in there for that too. I think it would be great. People can engage with you. They can see the game played. I know that I'm trying to help you guys get on another show on a Penny for a Tale on their Twitch channel to do an actual play. So by the time people hear this, hopefully there'll be a schedule up, and you guys can play some games and see what Doomsong's all about. I think it's fantastic. Did I see something in here about a soundtrack or something? Do you have a soundtrack for this? Yeah, let's hear about it.
So on the you'll have noticed on the sort of might be the first or second page of the book.
Yeah.
There is the titular Doomsong, which is the
it had the sheet music on there.
Yeah. So that's that is a hymn that is sung in universe from coast to coast across Panem, which is a song that sort of establishes the setting in sort of a, that the immortal was murdered, the traitor gods, yada yada yada. And yeah, we've just had a song made that I listened to the second draft of, and it was so good. I was like, I can't think of anything to say for a third
right. It's so good
version of this. But yeah, that's going to be probably put out with the Kickstarter video. I think it's a bit hush hush until then, although
at some point, I'm sure when people get the game, if they've supported the Kickstarter, they've gone for like the 150 tier. I'm sure that they'll probably get an MP3 of the soundtrack, which would be awesome.
Well, I would imagine that the soundtrack would be in amongst the digital releases that everyone gets.
I would imagine so. Once again, Chris, this was so much fun. I hope to actually meet you guys in person at some point, because I do have. I just found out we might be coming to the UK for one of the game expos, which now I know I have to go to the Lead Belt. So who knows?
Yeah.
We can go out for some curry and have some coffee, and all will be good. Or I should say hot brown water, whatever your preference is.
Yeah.
Chris, this was great. And thank you so much. Everybody, support Doomsong. Go sign up and throw money into it. And tell your friends.
Help us bring me on the apocalypse.
That's the way to end the show. Thanks again, Chris. I had so much fun talking to you. I love your artwork. I just think this is a great project. I am so happy you and your brother came on the show. Go to CaesarInk.com today. That's CaesarInk.com and sign up to receive a massive 120-page demo, world map, character sheets, and all the latest news from Doomsong. If you or anyone you know has a crowdfunding effort about to launch or is currently going, send them my way. I can feature them on this show or its sister show, Go Fund This. Go Fund This features crowdfunding projects just like this one. I love sharing cool projects and to help people reach their goals. You can connect with me on social media or via email. All the links are found in the show notes. Oh, and it would really help me out if you could rate and review this show on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. Good reviews help others find the show, which ultimately helps these games get funded. TTRPG Insider is a production of Southgate Media Group, hosted, produced, and edited by me, Rob Southgate. Thanks again for listening to the TTRPG Insider. Now grab some dice and get busy playing.